and good evening. My name is Lilly, and today I'd like to talk about psychic energy, what it is, how I view it, and how to develop it more. Psychic energy is the force driving psychological processes that come outside of the five senses. I correlate psychic energy with electromagnetic energy and consciousness. And to me, it's all talking about the same thing. I even relate this to what God is and how that energy moves through us. Psychic energy contains information about the soul's path and other aspects of our universe. It is connected to your highest self and your highest possible path for this current incarnation. You can learn to connect with that energy for guidance on how to be in alignment with that reality, that highest reality. You can receive information through that electromagnetic energy of the universe and filter it through your own lens and psyche. And then you can relay that into the physical world if you feel called to do that. Some psychic people just keep the information to themselves, and then some feel called to do work for other people through channeling, speaking, or writing the information that they are picking up on. This is also where creative energy comes in with this as well. I've seen tons of creative people, artists, musicians that talk about how their creations actually come from God or an energy outside of themselves, and that they are the channel to bring it into the physical. There is also a philosophical debate about that, whether or not insights and creative expression is specific to one person, or if anybody can tap into that particular thread of energy and create the same thing. If Beethoven never wrote Symphony No. 5, would someone else have? Or was it his unique experiences, perspective, and vessel who could have been the one to create it? Some scientists of the past have also said that certain insights and realizations have come from forces seemingly outside of themselves as well. You know, I connect everything back to astrology, and I think about it how everyone has different placements in their birth charts and certain energies that they connect with, and some people are naturally more analytical or scientific, or they're more creative and artistic, and they have a tendency to go towards particular directions. Sometimes there's overlap, but a lot of times it's like one or the other, like left or right brain. And I think about how artists channel that energy and create something artistic, but scientists can also channel that energy and realize things about their work and make connections and make new discoveries. And so I think that's a way how this consciousness lives through all of us and has us be creative in different ways. Normally, I think when you think of creative, you think of artistic, but there's many different ways to be creative. Even in scientific ways, you know, that's how you figure things out. It's not just a linear path. Like, that's how you figure out new ideas, is by thinking outside the box and in creative ways. We are living in a world where, as an individual and a collective, we are always pushing ourselves towards greater awareness, light, and expansion. Discoveries are always being made to advance our consciousness, and they come in breakthroughs of all kinds, all leading to a greater understanding. This psychic energy and consciousness is always working through us, but it can be tapped into more deeply and embraced. Each person has a unique connection to that energy and the way in which it wants to express itself through that person, if allowed the time and space. And that's pretty important, because you can be a creative person or even an artistic person, but if you don't allow the space to connect with that, then it's not going to come through. Some people are naturally always magnetizing all these ideas to them. But a lot of times the creative juices kind of get put to the side if they're not a priority. Especially in our day and age, how there's so many distractions with TV, Netflix, and your cell phone. If you're spending all that time absorbing all of this other content, it can stunt your creative energy. Sometimes it can inspire you, but a lot of times it's like draining your own energy to just keep consuming content. And it isn't good for being creative most of the time. I consider consciousness to essentially be located in electromagnetic energy, which is an infinite force in the universe, so it can be tapped into. This connection develops more when you rectify more of your shadow aspects of your psyche to become closer to light than shadow. This increases your vibration and gives you the ability to hone psychic gifts as you are able to shift into higher frequencies and hold and maintain that energy as you slowly increase your baseline of that frequency. Some people already have psychic gifts naturally that they've had either since they were younger or even their whole lives that they've had. But anybody can learn to develop them, even if you don't have a natural inclination towards that. Can you hone and strengthen psychic gifts without going through the heart and healing your emotional body? Technically, then you would be evil. I mean, kinda, you know? This is where you're increasing your intellectual connection to spirit and consciousness, but not your empathy. So your goals and motivations typically become more self-centered. This is not great for the advancement and further development of humanity, as it leads to people who are more narcissistic and sociopathic. These are power-hungry individuals who find their way in charge of the world, which is where we're kind of at now. You do hit a dead end at some point with living in this energy as you try to evolve to higher levels of consciousness. When you evolve to a 5D level, you have to come to terms with that we all are one. We all are one consciousness. We're all mirrors of each other. We're all like different parts of the same energy, experiencing life in different ways. So the self-serving mentality does not exist on these higher levels of consciousness. It is an illusion and a distortion, and it's not actually real. It's not the truth. This is also why it's so important for humanity as a whole to continue working on themselves and rectifying their shadow as technology becomes more advanced. Otherwise, it will swallow us up and destroy the planet. But I don't think that's going to happen. Even if it did, if the planet got destroyed, this video would not be viewed by anyone anymore. So we don't need to think about that. That's why it's important that when you're developing psychic skills, it's also very important to work on yourself to reduce the shadow aspects that are affecting your decision making. This process includes having strong energetic and physical boundaries with people who seek to cause damage to you or are subconsciously or consciously projecting their own shadows onto you. Also important here is to work on self-love. When you show loving care towards yourself, it's easier and more natural to show it to other people in a way that does not compromise your own being. A lot of people who seek power, they end up attaining it, but they also end up still feeling insecure because they did not work on their heart and they prioritized intelligence or logic, but not their emotions. Right? That's like toxic masculinity, really. So now they want to move in a way that disregards others' feelings and experiences, and they want to work for the government. To foster self-love, it is important to understand that you deserve love and to be loved simply by existing, regardless of how other people have treated you in the past or made you feel like you don't deserve love at all. People can do this by intentionally saying harmful things to you or unconsciously making you feel that way by having them disrespect you or reject you or your love. Even if it is hard to truly feel love inside for yourself right now, it develops more based off of how you treat yourself. So this includes having strong boundaries, taking care of your physical body, honoring your emotions instead of running from them, being gentle when you make mistakes, and not engaging with people who make you compromise on the love that you are trying to have for yourself. Being an empath is considered having a psychic gift, as they typically have greater amounts of empathy and are able to hold space for the healing of other people. They have a natural sensitivity to emotions or physical symptoms of others around them, or some people have it with like animals, where they feel the animals' feelings and such. They typically have a more developed or natural intuition where they can pick up on things about other people around them even if they're not directly said. Sometimes this can manifest as taking on others' emotions around them, which can be overwhelming. Typically, people who have this or who are more empathic, who consider themselves empaths, will have more active mirror neurons in their brain, which causes them to be able to experience someone else's emotions as their own. This process happens automatically, so they don't really get a say in it. These energies can merge very easily, and it can cause the person to get confused and not be able to tell if what they're feeling is their emotions or actually the emotions of the people around them. Having that greater sense of receptivity with other people helps with aiding in the development of psychic abilities. You need to be able to be receptive to the energy of the universe and the information that it carries. This is also how tarot readers typically tap into the energy of someone else that they are reading. They pick up on others' feelings and can translate what they are feeling to bring clarity and wisdom to the surface. Some examples of psychic gifts, the main ones I think we're going to talk about: clairvoyancy, right? That is translates to clear seeing, where a person will visually see things in their mind, like visions or symbols or images. There's clairaudience, which is clear hearing, where they hear things. So like people will be doing like psychic readings or whatever, and they will hear things that come through. This hearing will be like voices, sounds, or music. A lot of people will channel through music, and they'll like channel songs that have messages. Clairsentience, which is clear feeling, which is feeling the energy and emotions of the person or the energy they're tapping into. This is like being an empath, but I think not all empaths will experience things exactly the same. Claircognizance, which is clear knowing. You just be knowing shit. You just be knowing. Yeah. Clairalliance is fun. Clear smelling. So if someone's doing a channeling, for example, they might have that sense and say like, oh, I smell particular aromas that will kind of confirm the energy of the person you're connecting with, like maybe something floral or smoke or liquor if they're an alcoholic or, anything. Fruit, oranges. Does someone smell like oranges? Or, perfume maybe. But yeah, it's smelling something even though it's not actually in the room. And then moving on is mediumship, which is connecting with spirits who have passed on, right? We know the Long Island medium. Okay, she was big for doing that. I know there is people who are on the fence and they think like psychic people and mediums aren't real. And I think realistically, there's going to be people with real gifts out there who are doing work like that, but there's always going to be people who are trying to bamboozle you. Like, you're going to have that in every industry. You get your car worked on, you're always going to have a scammy guy. Sorry, we're being sexist here. We're always going to have a scammy guy that's like trying to say, oh my god, your blinker fluid's low, you gotta get that, or your air filter, you gotta do all this stuff. So any industry, you're gonna have people that are fake, but there are definitely some real ones out there. Premonitions. You see events before they occur. Those are fun. Psychometry. That is getting information about things just by touching them. You can maybe like when that item was created, or like who owned it, the energy of someone who made it, or like a building, that kind of thing. Remote viewing, which is sensing objects at a distance, essentially. Like, you're typically here, you're chilling, and you can like close your eyes and then you like think about a different location, and go see it. I think some people consider that like astral projecting, and they will be able to see other locations physically, but their body's here. The CIA, is it the CIA? The government released documents about that. I think about all this stuff I just listed. So they definitely have released it. Like, yeah, it's real, and this is all the stuff that we learned or whatever. Like, it's a thing. Not that the government, you know, who cares about them? But who cares what they think? And last thing I'm going to mention, telepathy, which telepathy I'm going to talk more about later on in this video. But telepathy is another psychic gift that can be developed into. But those are the main ones. I'm sure there's other little niche ones that people will say, but those are the ones I think people generally are like, yeah. And you can see how most of these are elevation of the current physical senses that we all have normally: sight, hearing, smell, taste. Clear tasting. I did not cover that. I wonder if that's I didn't read that. Where you you're doing a reading, you're like, I'm tasting. Okay, that'd be fun. I don't know if anyone, I'm sure someone has that where they can taste psychically. That's funny. Okay. Anyway, but these are elevations of the current senses that we have. So it's like building upon this natural foundation that we already have as humans. It is just expanding upon what is possible if you choose to hone and develop those skills. Some of these gifts are connecting with energies and frequencies that exist outside of the constraints of time and space, such as mediumship. These psychic people can connect with people who have passed on. They're not physically here at this time, but they can connect with them because the energetic information of their soul, their experience here on Earth, and the coding of that, right? Because we live in the Matrix, you know. The coding of their thoughts and feelings still exists in the universe. It's just changed form and left our physical reality. This information is typically channeled from the higher realms of consciousness. Some refer to this as the Akashic records, which can be considered like an information network that can be intentionally connected with. Automatic writing is another way to channel information where you are intentionally connecting with your higher self or your spirit guides, angels. You can connect with these higher energies to gain more clarity about your situation. When you do this, you are bypassing the layers of the physical body, the emotional body, and the mind. And you can connect in the truth in a more unbiased way because our thoughts and feelings can skew the truth quite well. So when you set that intention to connect with your higher self, and then you start to write, you just let it flow, then that's automatic writing. People who are psychic are more greatly affected by energetic shifts on the planet and the planet's natural cycles because they have that greater connection of awareness to the universe around them and to our planet. So this includes geomagnetic storms that are caused by solar flares. Okay, lock in. The moon cycle, seasons, planetary movements, like in astrology, the aspects that the planets are making to each other and how they affect us, and the Schumann resonance. I did want to go more into detail about those individual things I just named to explain more about how they connect with what we're talking about, but this video is getting really long, and I didn't want this video to be really long, so I'm probably going to talk about them a different day. So, expansion of consciousness is typically a slower process because the physical 3D body is not built to contain such intense forms of energy. Currently. We're evolving, though. We're getting there. especially because expansion requires the release of old energy for the transformation to take place. And it can be very difficult to try and heal from things quickly, right? Because as you expand, you have to let go of like past traumas, past issues, past patterning, and it can be very hard to be shown a truth all at once and then make a change all at once. And so its expansion of consciousness is typically a little bit slower. So like when information is essentially downloaded from the cloud, right? Because we're all just like tiny computers, okay? Really, like we all have this electrical shit going on. So when that happens, it can be very draining. Like a lot of psychic people, when they get heavy downloads or when they do channeling or when they do tarot readings, it is very draining work because they're tapping into these higher energies and the physical body can struggle to deal with that. And so it can be very draining and overwhelming to the nervous system. As the energy comes through, when you're channeling information, it's starting in these higher levels, these higher frequencies of consciousness. And so it needs to be slowed down and interpreted in the 3D. And sometimes information comes so quickly, it can be hard to write it down. You have to like speak it. And that's why like technology is so useful for helping humanity expand its consciousness, even in this example, because it's like if you're receiving a download, some sort of information or insight about something, and you can't write it down because it's just so quick, you can do text to speech and you can like, and you have it, right? Isn't that nice? Because imagine back in the day, if you're, being shown the prophecy, you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, but now, text to speech. Now everyone's got a prophecy. Okay. Man. Hold on. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, well, we're gonna have to deal with this square on my face. My final form. Okay. Alright. The sun is... fleeing. Alright. Massive emotional waves by a large number of people can also be picked up on and affect other people who are highly sensitive or psychic. Sometimes collective feelings of despair and sadness, even joy, although I haven't felt a lot of joy lately. It's a lot of despair. These emotions can come forth seemingly out of nowhere without any direct cause. This is studied through what's called the Global Consciousness Project. I'm going to quote what the Global Consciousness Project has on their website to talk more about it, because I think it's relevant to what we're talking about. So, when human consciousness becomes coherent, the behavior of random systems may change. Random number generators, RNGs, based on quantum tunneling, produce completely unpredictable sequences of zeros and ones. But when a great event synchronizes the feelings of millions of people, our network of random number generators becomes subtly structured. We calculate 1 in a trillion odds that the effect is due to chance. The evidence suggests an emerging noosphere, or the unifying field of consciousness described by sages in all cultures. The Global Consciousness Project is an international, multidisciplinary collaboration of scientists and engineers. We collect data continuously from a global network of physical random number generators located in up to 70 host sites around the world at any given time. The data is transmitted to a central archive, which now contains more than 15 years of random data in parallel sequences of synchronized 200-bit trials generated every second. Our purpose is to examine subtle correlations that may reflect the presence and activity of consciousness in the world. We hypothesize that there will be structure in what should be random data, associated with major global events that engage our minds and hearts. So a word I'd like to go over that they mention there is an emerging noosphere, which is defined as a sphere of human thought. which is a proposed evolutionary stage following the geosphere and the biosphere, where collective human consciousness and technology becomes a dominant planetary force. So as humanity continues to evolve and each individual works to expand their own individual consciousness, it raises the collective consciousness. And we eventually will all be a bit more psychic, and we will be able to function more collaboratively in furthering technological and societal advancement. I also feel this merging of current scientific knowledge and logical thought processes, combined with the spiritual or intuitive side of things, is also an important key for developing more advanced technologies and understanding the universe in a better way. Collective psychic advancements that come from consciousness expansion include things like using telepathy to communicate instead of needing language. Language will no longer be a barrier, as you can feel the energy and intentions behind what is being said, instead of actually having to comprehend on a linguistic level. Now, what is telepathy? I said we were going to touch on it again, and here we are. Let's define it, right? I love a definition. Non-physical transmission of information like thoughts, emotions, or images directly between minds. Some people do experience forms of telepathy, even though they might not call it that, with people that they are really close to. They're really connected to each other's electromagnetic energy fields, and so it's possible to have the same thoughts or know what the other person is going to say or how they feel, even if they are physically apart. This natural telepathy increases when you go deeper within yourself to raise the consciousness vibration. And by raise, I mean make it go faster, right? So there is better processing, like a more sophisticated computer, right? Process things more efficiently. You can also see how the first step to getting to a place where telepathy is possible is by strengthening that connection to yourself, your path, and your intuition in order to be receptive to the psychic energy. Working on oneself to clear the shadows is part of the important process of evolving consciousness with oneself and humanity. Empathy is also like a precursor to telepathy. The emotional and mental realms can be viewed separately, but ultimately they are intertwined with the body and the soul, right? We have body, physical body, emotional body, mental body, and the soul, right? That's what's going on. Layers. Like an onion. Like an ogre. Okay. Having deep empathy helps facilitate psychic energy expansion, which also mirrors an increase in intuition. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Lily. Stay frosty. Bye bye.